on how tall and handsome he was. And so that kind of opened a lot of speculation as, was he kind of,
Well,
who knows,
I mean,
right?
she could have been attached, right? So it was like, it may not have become something intimate, but it may have been.
Not, right?
Maybe, let's
maybe
not. But the thing is, I think the attachment was, and her relationship to him, whether it was physical or not, was definitely not that of a platonic relationship. Regardless,
you think so?
I mean, I think the fact that he ended up in the Tower of London for marrying someone, yes, I think so. I think absolutely.
Let's talk about that because
we're jumping ahead.
We got to give the full context here.
Yes.
No, it's fine. It's quite fine, but let's talk about it a little bit because again, so just so you know, cards on the table. I think that there was nothing going on between them. I think.
What do you mean by nothing? Does nothing mean that you think they were just friends? Or do you think that nothing means, I mean, fine, I will agree with you that there was nothing physical happening. Not an issue.
Right. Okay.
But I think the attachment was not platonic.
Right. Now, I think that, as queen, you can only, there's a sense of ownership over your subjects that you have, right? As king or queen, you kind of feel like you have a say in how everyone else should conduct themselves and how they should live their lives. Right. No matter how high ranking they are, you kind of feel like ultimately
you're the final say.
Right. Exactly. Jinx. So when they stray away from that, right, even a little bit, it's kind of like you're threatening the very reality that they've defined for themselves, right? So
I guess that's a structure that keeps them in power ultimately, right?
Exactly. So it's kind of like, we can't let this go unpunished, no matter how much of a favorite you are. We cannot let this go unpunished. So let's talk about what little Walter did to anger the queen. So again, we're talking about how he was her favorite. There's even this unsubstantiated claim that Sir Walter Raleigh once laid down his coat
so that she could
over a puddle, right? So the queen wouldn't get her feet wet, right? I mean, that's just ridiculous. Come on now. I mean, what level of ass kissery do you have to? I mean, come on now. It's kind of like
it is ridiculous because I'm assuming there were many other options available.
There must have been so many other options. And if you look, the funny thing is, whenever I look at like a painting, sort of representing that event, it's kind of like, oh my goodness, it's not even like it was a narrow straight of road. It's like she could just have walked a little bit to the left or a little bit to the side and completely avoided the puddle. So it's like, was this really?
How dare you imply that Her Highness must alter her path for nature?
Your Majesty, if you would just stand over there for a second, I will disrobe momentarily and spread my coat over the puddle so that your angelic and majestic feet may not get wet. Of course, until you dip them into the pool at your own choosing.
At your own choosing. Although I do think this was the era where they didn't believe that bathing was the best of ideas. So that's a whole
oh my goodness.
No, here's what occurs to me: the mechanics of doing that in a suave fashion, because it would be very easy for that to seem as if you just threw your jacket down in front of someone, right? Like,
and started a war.
Yeah, you just right. So it's like you'd have to do that in a very, very specific way for it not to seem like slow-mo with like
slow-mo.
almost like like a matador, like. And exactly. I will throw this down slowly, because otherwise you have just thrown your clothes in front of the queen. You've just been like, you've ripped off your jacket and just thrown it down in front of the queen and been like, go ahead. How insolent. Your Highness, allow me. Rips clothes off, throws them to the floor. Please go ahead.
Right. There's just so much going on that just makes me think that never happened. And as much has been said by, a few sources who say that never happened. That's just one of those things that, those stories that just swirled around Sir Walter Raleigh. And he again, so Walter was, he quickly rose to become the head of her guards, right?
Right.
So again, full unrestricted access. Nobody gets to the queen but through, the head of her guards.
Raleigh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Exactly. So, dude was doing okay. He was doing fine.
Solid,
right?
yeah. As far as career advancement goes, from living on a farm to head of the guards of the queen and being knighted, you're doing all right. Yeah, solid.
Right. So I'm jumping to this article to talk about what he did that got him in hot water the first time. I'm jumping to the article on history.com, and it says the title of the article is Why Sir Walter Raleigh Was Beheaded. Okay, so we kind of gave away the end there, but he was beheaded. Now, Sibel, why is that funny to you? Because I can see you giggling uncontrollably.
It's
why
because of the way you said it. Because you said, that's why beheaded. It's just the way you separated those two words. Beheaded. It's so funny. He was beheaded.
He was beheaded. Pause for dramatic effect. Headed.
He was stay with me now. Headed.
Oh my goodness. No. I did not mean it in that way. I want to believe I'm a much better human being than to laugh at someone being beheaded. But no, that is the title of the article.
Right.
And so this is on history.com. And it says, for a court favorite, Raleigh actually spent quite a bit of his life locked up in the Tower of London.
Yeah.
The first time, in 1592, it was because he'd secretly married his lover, Elizabeth Bess Throckmorton. Can we just get a round of applause for Miss Throckmorton over here?
Elizabeth.
That's right.
Bessie Throckmorton. Isn't that
Bessie?
Bessie.
That was quite messy. She was a messy Bessie. I was trying so hard not to say that. Messy. You have no self-control, my friend. I was trying so hard not to say that, but you had no hesitation. You just jumped right in.
I love the fact that in one of the articles, they're like, he was basically sneaking around the palace. Elizabeth Bessie Throckmorton was a lady in waiting to the queen. Now, I needed some clarification on this. A lady in waiting, apparently, is effectively someone who acts, shall we say, as a very high class lady servant to the queen.
Right. Lady servant, confidant, gatekeeper,
posse, crew,
right. Exactly.
Friend. And the thing is, they all come from the aristocracy themselves.
That's right.
Right. So this is the closest circle of basically the queen's gals. And apparently, Walter Raleigh wheedled his way into the inner circle, and him and Bessie were how can we put this?
They were quite close.
They were quite close. They were having lots of conversations. The queen found out about these conversations when their child was born.
Right.
Not pregnant.
Right.
Born.
Right.
Born.
Now, to be fair.
Okay.
To be fair. To be
absolutely fair.
To be fair. To be headed.
My boy. To be fair, before you get beheaded. My boy, Walter over here, did the right thing. He was a gentleman. He did marry her, right? So I object to the insinuations that you're making, Sibel, that he just knocked her up and he just made her have a baby. He made her have a baby. Right.
My insinuation is less about that. My insinuation is that the queen did not notice that someone she was around every day was pregnant.
Now, you have to go back to the fashion of the day.
Of the day.
Okay?
Yes, fair enough.
Of the day, right?
Yeah,
there was a lot of folds and a lot of,
huge,
come on,
poofy,
you could hide.
Poofy things.
You could hide. Exactly. Now, my friend, I feel like if you could hide a pregnancy to term, not just the first few months, to term. You must be wearing some pretty, billowy clothing, right? So
must be.
She didn't find out, the queen, that is, didn't find out until they had their baby, right?
Yeah.
So, this whole time, Sir Walter was just sneaking around the palace and probably saying things like, Bessie, over here.
No, I can't. It's too dangerous. No, my love. The queen has just had her third tea. The queen has just had her third tea of the day, so she should be quite knocked out for at least 20 minutes. And 20 minutes we can put to effective use.
Yeah. And he was the head of the guard, so he could hide his moving around so easily. Right?
Exactly.
He would just tell them,
all right, boy, why don't you go take a look at that hallway for the next 45 seconds or so.
Yeah, so he did this, and she was pregnant, and she had the baby, and Elizabeth lost it, right?
I think it's also worth noting that I think it also implies that they knew that Elizabeth would not be okay with their relationship.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Because otherwise, why would they have been sneaking around, right? I mean, yeah, they must have known, right? And again, think about the politics of this time. A lot of things were decided by who's married to whom, whose power is being consolidated by marriage to this other family,
right,
and that kind of thing. I'm sure this, Bessie, being from, the aristocracy herself, she probably was already promised off to someone else from another family that would have been deemed advantageous to her parents, right?
Sure.
And if you think about it, being a lady in waiting for the queen kind of put her under the guardianship, under the care of Elizabeth I, right? So for Elizabeth, it was kind of like, ooh, you're embarrassing me because now I have to go explain to, this girl's parents,
right,
how possibly under my care, one of my houseboys got you pregnant, essentially.
How my guard.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How my guard.
How my security guard got you pregnant. But yeah, no, you're right. It is. It's effectively, that's the social contract the queen has, which is,
exactly.
I take care of the aristocracy, and the aristocracy therefore listens to me and maintains my power amongst the world, right? Because that's the power structure, because a single person obviously cannot hold an entire empire together.
All that, exactly.
So when that social contract was broken, there had to be repercussions. And so what I'm gathering here is that the simple farm boy for Devonshire would not have been an adequate match.
I think that this is part of why it was so messy, right? The scandal, right? You can just imagine, the court, this must have affected.
I can't have my security guards stupid my ladies in waiting. What a terrible precedent to set. Next thing you know, the cooks are going to get ideas.
Right. No, it's definitely the thing where something had to be done. And I'm pretty sure because he was her favorite, right? So I'm sure it broke her heart to do it, but she had to send him to the tower, right? So that was his first imprisonment in the tower. We will go on a quick break, and we will be back to talk about what happened post imprisonment with Sir Walter Raleigh. So don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
Dear listeners, welcome back. This is Sibel and Bibi. We're talking today about Sir Walter Raleigh, a gentleman who seems to always get himself into a tower of trouble. Over to you, Bibi.
We will, if our listeners have not logged off yet,
they will now.
They will now. I was actually going to say they will never. If they've stuck with us this far, they're never going to leave us now. But okay, so going back to, this imprisonment situation, back to the article in history.com, it says, nevertheless, they were soon released And in a few short years, Raleigh had regained the Queen's favor.
So that's what's fascinating.